On this week's episode of the Jesse T Show, Darrah Brustein joins the show.
So similar to the entrepreneurial inclination, it's been the same with relationships. When I look back at the baby book a couple of days ago, my mom said, she's like, everywhere you go, you're like barely speaking and you already are asking tons of questions to people and you're already listening and you're already staring at people and making eye contact. Like I just had this natural gravitational pull towards it. And it was just in my wiring. And what was so interesting to me is that I never thought it was something special. I never saw it as a gift or something to build on because everyone has the ability to do this. Everyone has the ability and the wiring as social beings to build relationships and networks. But what I learned when I was in my early 20s through the reflection and mirroring of people in my life was that while we all are able to do certain things, others of us just have a natural gift at it. And no one else among my friends were like, we don't look at the world as this puzzle to put together. We don't see that Jesse and Rennie should know each other. Rennie's the guy who introduced us. Oh, yeah. We don't see that A plus B equals, C squared. Like we don't see that, but you do. And you put it together and it's a compulsion for you. Like you just can't help yourself. And so it was just always something that I built on in that way. And actually for the listeners, there's two things I want to mention that might be useful. One, to this exact mirroring exercise. If you are in that place where you're like, I am trying to identify what my gifts are, what my skills are, what my purpose is, on my website, just go to darrah.co. It's darrah.co/freebies. I have an exercise called the 9 questions to ask your network to help you find your path. And these questions were pivotal for me. This is how I realized that not only was I a connector, but it was my gift and that it was something that became the through line of like every business that I've shared about today. If you really pare it down, it comes to the power of connection. It comes to the power of connecting people to people and people to resources to better the outcomes for all involved. And when I knew that that was my purpose and that was my through line, it didn't matter what the embodiment of it was and how that played out in my job or my company. It just mattered that I was doing it. And so for anyone else, this exercise helps you ask the people in your life these questions to get real answers, to look for the patterns. So asking things like, what is it? When is it that you see me at my most powerful? When is it you see me as the opposite? What's something you know about me that you think I don't know about myself? Like, and so on, that help you really assess what is it that these people see that I'm either sleeping on and taking for granted or that I'm not seeing in the first place. And the second, actually, while you're on that page, is the shit no one tells you about starting a business, which really harkens back to what we were talking about, and especially what Jesse was saying about loneliness, that there's so much that people put on a pedestal and sort of like glamorize around entrepreneurship, but so much they don't tell you about the behind the scenes trials and tribulations that I get really transparent about in this, that just really based on the camaraderie and helping you understand that you're not alone in this and that these are some of the things you might be bound to experience. And that's okay. As long as you know that you're not alone in that, it helps you get through it. So back to your question, when I'm building relationships, for me, it always comes down to, first and foremost, do we vibe? Like, are you just someone I want in my sphere, in my orbit? Is the energy good? Because if it's not, I don't care if you, like for me, Oprah is everything. Like if you're Oprah and we meet and our energy doesn't jive and something's off, and it's like, okay, there's plenty of people in this world. Let's keep it moving. If they're the person that's going to send you 10 clients a week, but you can't be yourself with them, or you feel like you're making concessions to try and be someone you're not, like, just keep it moving. There's so much more out there for you and for us. But, I have so many strategies for this. And actually, rather than go through like the step-by-step, because I could talk for hours about this, I'm going to give 2 more resources that I think would be helpful. One is with Network Under 40, I created a series called A Guide to Better Networking. And I think it's a 37 series of videos that are all a couple minutes long and break down really specific tools and strategies throughout the process of a relationship, from just meeting someone to being at a networking event and coming in and out of conversations gracefully, to how to nurture relationships when your network gets huge, and so on and so forth, like on and on and on. All of this stuff that'll help underpin and undergird you're building a really successful network. But then similarly, there's a movement I started a couple years ago called Give It Forward. And I think this is one of the absolute best ways to practice what Jesse was saying about a value additive lens to relationships while also building and nurturing your network. And it's really simple. I recommend doing it for 30 days. You can do it as short or long as you choose. And it's about intentionally giving to one person a day with no strings attached for that 30-day or whatever time period.